Ahoy hoy everybody, and welcome to the next video in my series where I listen to classic albums for the first time. And today I'm listening to Songs from a Big Chair by Tears for Fears. So, I have a slight confession. Technically I have heard this album before, however let me explain. This album was recommended to me for this series by Adrian Cogger, who's a long-term friend through the autograph community, watches my videos, he's a big 80s pop kind of guy. Recommended this album along with a couple of others. About 2 days later I went to a slice of vinyl, my local record shop in Gosport, to have a browse, and whilst I was there he just stuck this on the turntable. So it was on whilst I was browsing for records and chatting to Kieran, who owns a slice of vinyl. So I've heard it, but I wasn't giving it any attention. So I'm still including it in this series. Let's have a look. My relationship with Tears for Fears. I obviously familiar with their big hits. I can't believe there's anybody who was born in the UK in 1975 who doesn't know their big hits from the 80s. Until recently I didn't own any Tears for Fears, however I have over the last 18 months, 2 years, bought the Greatest Hits collection. That might have been a bit longer ago actually, but the Greatest Hits collection that they bought out fairly recently I did buy. I think it was in one of HMV's, 2 for £15 offers or something like that, but I bought it on CD. And then I found Sowing the Seeds of Love, or Sowing the Seeds, or The Seeds of Love, or whatever the album's called. Seeds of Love, I think. In a charity shop, and picked that one up, and very much enjoyed that album. They were sort of a band that I always liked their stuff, but it never even crossed my mind to buy any of it. I didn't get excited for a new Tears for Fears song, but when it came out, I thought, oh, that's a good song. And, they were all pretty catchy, and most of them ingrained in the consciousness of people who grew up in the 80s. So yeah, as I say, technically I've heard this. I know enough to know that I will enjoy the album, but apart from the singles, I couldn't tell you what any of the other tracks sounded like. Regarding the singles, this contains Shout, Everybody Wants to Rule the World, and Head Over Heels, 3 songs I know very, very, very well. I wonder if they will overshadow the album. We shall see. But this is a new copy, bought from, I think it was recordstore.co.uk in their, I can't remember if this was one of their deals of the day, or it was just in a special offer they had on towards the start of lockdown. Comes with download, good. So it is a new copy. Ooh, nearly dropped it. Okay, so yeah, looking forward to giving it a spin and seeing if the whole album is as good as the singles. I'll see you in a minute. Okay, Songs from a Big Chair. I liked the album, I enjoyed the album. Just address why this is in this series. This isn't a widely acclaimed classic album, but it did feature in the Classic Album TV series. It is in the book 1001 Albums to Hear Before You Die. It is regarded as a great album and is, as I say, has been classed as a classic. I've included it largely because I wanted a bit more pop in here. Most of what I've listened to so far has been rock or singer-songwriter, that sort of music. So I wanted something a bit different. So my last video, we had some trip hop, which is a genuine classic album and featured in many lists. This, a lesser classic, but still a classic, but I wanted a pop album in. And this is a pop album, but it's not your typical pop album, which we will cover. So it opens with Shout, which is a classic pop song, a great song. The percussion is largely percussion driven at the start at least, and it is excellent percussion playing. It's got that catchy hook, the shout, shout, let it all out. It's a nice breakdown in the middle, and it goes into an organ solo, and then sort of a pipey sound on the keyboard solo, and the horns come in later in the song. There's a great guitar solo towards the end. Really good song. However, I would say the album version It's 6 minutes plus. I think it's almost 6.5 minutes. It's probably done all it needs to do after about 4 minutes. It does get a bit repetitive at the end, but that aside, great song. It goes into the working hour. It's got a nice soulful sax start, a keyboard harp sound playing, then some African sounding drums come in, and then that moves into more typical 80s gated drums. This is a very 80s sounding song. In fact, the whole album is pretty 80s sounding, but not necessarily in a bad way. It's a nice moody, atmospheric song. I did find the vocals got slightly lost amongst the instruments, but that was probably the feel they were going for. But yeah, another good song, really enjoyed. So then we've got Everybody Wants to Rule the World, which is another classic pop song, a great pop song. It's got that amazing intro that's immediately recognisable. It's unique to the song. As soon as you hear it, you know what the song is. And then the song's driven by this really simple 2-note keyboard riff, but it's really effective. And I love the way that the lyrics are pretty dark in tone, but it's got this it's juxtaposed with this upbeat music. And there's a great guitar solo towards the end, just an amazing track. And then side one ends with Mother's Talk, which made me think of Depeche Mode. Very industrial drumming with chanty vocalization. But then towards the end there were some horn stabs in that sounded very much like the horn stabs in A View to a Kill by Duran Duran. And so I was sort of getting a mixture of Depeche Mode and Duran Duran towards the end. But I liked the song again, really good side. Then it flips over, complete change of style with I Believe. It's a sort of a torch song, built just vocals and a jazzy piano. And then some sax comes in, really good sax. I'm a sucker for sax. And just a good change of pace on the album, really enjoyed that being there. Then that goes into Broken, which is pretty much instrumental. There are some lyrics, but it's largely instrumental. Starts with some pounding drums, then instruments just get added to it. You know, the keys come in and the guitar come in, and the organ, and it just builds and builds. Then you hear a little snippet of the riff to Head Over Heels. Then it goes back to Broken and it keeps playing. The guitar sound reminded me very much of the guitarist Bowie was using around this time. Carlos Alomar and people like that. It just had that same feel to it. But yeah, really good. And then towards the end of the song, it goes back into Head Over Heels. And it doesn't quite segue into, because it does stop and start again. But it pretty much segues into Head Over Heels, which is just another great pop song with a chiming piano intro that's almost church-like. It's just a great pop song, and it's got the classic la la outro, like many great pop songs. And then after the song, it goes back into Broken, which is fine and it really works. But then at the end of that, you discover that's live and there's crowd noise, and I don't really see the point of that. Similar to when I did Bridge Over Troubled Water, and they stuck the live version of Wake Up Little Susie on there. I'm not a big lover of random liveness stuck into a studio album. There are examples where it works, but that tends to be the examples where the liveness of it is sort of downplayed. The example that's leaving to mind is Prince's Sign of the Times. At the very end, you got It's Gonna Be a Beautiful Night, which is recorded live with overdubs, but the liveness of it is sort of downplayed. It's just a good funky jam. But anyway, back to this. So, yeah, spoiled it a little bit with having the crowd noise in there. I didn't really think it was necessary. And that mixed into the final track, which was Listen. I thought the organ that was throughout it, but particularly at the start, had a hint of fairground organ to it. It lessened as it went on, but there was sort of that pipey tone to it. Again, it had the industrial drums, some synthesised strings over it. Few vocals, particularly for the bulk of the song. And when they came in, they were very simple, and they were more being used. No, it was a bit later. Pretty simple vocals. I'm not entirely sure they really fitted with the song, but I'll give them a benefit of a doubt. And then as the song went on, some more vocals came in, and very sort of African sounding vocals and chanty, and these were being used more as another instrument rather than as a vocalizer, you know, as a mouthpiece for the song, if you see what I mean. Did find it went on a bit towards the end, but overall enjoyed the album. As I say, it's not your typical 80s pop album. It's darker, it's more varied, it's got it's better musicianship than a lot of 80s pop. Although it has got the sort of the gated drums pretty much throughout it, they're used properly and they're not just used for their own sake. Yeah, it's a good pop rock, probably be fairer description, album, and I enjoyed it very much. As I say, I've got Seeds of Love. I will pick up The Hurting. I could have picked it up today, actually. I was record shopping today and they had it. That'll be Willow then, won't it? Right, now seems like a good time to end the video. Please send me your suggestions for classic albums. Thank you for watching. Like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you in another video. Thanks. Bye.